Welcome everybody to another edition of Project Showcase. This is WhaleShark and I am thrilled, honored, and beyond excited today to be in the presence of greatness. Today we are going to have a bilingual session about the upcoming drop by world-renowned artist Cai Guo-Qiang, in Chinese Cai Laoshi, who is going to be dropping with one of the fastest up-and-coming high-premium platforms of art, TRLab. We're joined today not only with Cai Laoshi as well as his associate, but also with Audrey Oh, who is the founder of TRLab. Today will be a bilingual session as we delve into an introduction of Mr. Cai and his works, not only within the contemporary art space, but also NFTs, as well as a sneak peeks and more information pertaining to his drop with TRLab's Your Daytime Fireworks. Just a short introduction before I allow both Mr. Cai as well as Audrey to introduce themselves. Cai Guo-Qiang is the renowned and one of the most famous Chinese contemporary artists in the entire world. In 2007, Mr. Cai sold a set of 14 gunpowder drawings at Christie's for $9.5 million, cementing his name as the most expensive Chinese contemporary artist in the world at that time. As he's moved forward within the space, he's also been able to break further records by dropping Transient Eternity, as well as Exploding the Self, which happened back in 2020 and 2021, and truly riveted the space with his interactions of how he uses gunpowder as his medium and how he adapted gunpowder into a digital experience. Today, we have viewers not only from the Whale community on the Whale community Discord, we also have viewers tuning in from the Whale community Twitter. And this was so important to me that I wanted to make sure that we also had this playing on my personal Twitter as well. Welcome to the space, Mr. Cai. Welcome to the space, Audrey. How are you guys doing today?
今天大家怎么样？
很好，谢谢那个威尔，我们很高兴，我很高兴又跟你见面。然后虽然是线上的见面，但我们是相亲加朋友了，而且还共同的成为一个NFT 的道友。
So I'm all well. I'm so happy today to be with everyone, with WhaleShark and Audrey and everyone. So well, we already are great friends, and then we are from the same hometown in the sense. And not only that, we are now also in the same world, which is crypto world. So very happy to to have this conversation.
Totally and completely honored. 真的这一次能有这个机会点，可以跟蔡老师再一次聊一下，而且好像去聊一下蔡老师的这个艺术，而且好像目前在进入 NFT 的这个业界，今天真的太荣幸了。
谢谢。
Audrey, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Once again, I'm blown away by how well Sang, who's Cai Studios project manager, is able to translate Cai's saying so beautifully, and I'm just excited to follow along the conversation.
The last time we had this conversation, I believe that both Mr. Cai and Sang got a new bunch of fans who were just simply amazed, not only by the insight that was provided, but also with the highest quality level of translation and to be able to communicate everything that Mr. Cai wanted to communicate to the international community. So I thank both of you guys I thank all of you for being here today. Today's session is going to be bilingual. The way that we will move out throughout this interview that will last for about 50 minutes is that I will ask my questions in both Chinese as well as in English. Again, we're very fortunate here not only to have the artist extraordinaire himself, but also the wonderful platform that is bringing all these opportunities to Mr. Cai as well as other very prominent artists in the space. So I do look forward to this conversation between platform between collector as well as artist today. This is going to be simply amazing. So while I did give a very brief introduction to Mr. Cai in the beginning, I think a lot of people have joined the space since we had our last interview. So the way that I'd love to start off is firstly by asking Mr. Cai to give a brief introduction of himself, as well as asking Audrey to give a brief introduction of TRLabs, because TRLabs is doing some fantastic and amazing stuff in the space. And excited to hear all about that too. 所以蔡老师，我知道好像上一次我们聊的时候，大概是几个月之前吧。然后其实在 NFT 的这个业界里面，几个月可以相当于就是真正的世界的几年。而且在这段时间之内，肯定是已经又收集了又累积了，就是很多就是蔡老师以及 TRLabs 这些粉丝。所以为了这些新的观众，可以请蔡老师去做一个简单的一个自我介绍。
好啊，那我先说一下我自己平时做的艺术呢。我家当然我上次跟您大概介绍了一次，我重新再说一下。我在泉州出生的，是1957年12月。那么我的家乡是一个文化还有历史比较丰富的地方，现在也是一个联合国的文化遗产的地方。那我家里面父亲有画画，然后有写书法，是一个国画的传统的，所以我从小呢是希望我跟我父亲不一样，搞一个现代艺术的。那么我的艺术大家都知道有用火药做作品爆炸，这个分为绘画的，还有一个是在空间里面爆炸转瞬即逝就结束的。另外我还有做很多是比如说装置 installation， 用廊啊船啊草船接舰啊。另外还有一个社会项目，包括我在外滩美术馆做的农民达芬奇，请中国农民把他们的一些创造 UFO 啊、航空母舰啊等等潜水艇啊集中起来，表现那个中国社会的一些创造力，分为4个部分。你先说。
So while I already briefly shared something about myself last time, but I would love to talk a bit more to the new audience who has since joined our space. So first of all, what I do in my art. So I was born in Quanzhou, in China, in December 1957. Quanzhou, this city is very rich in culture and history, and it's also just named by UNESCO as the Cultural Heritage City. And my father was very keen, passionate about practicing traditional Chinese calligraphy and traditional Chinese painting, but since I was very little, I was determined to do something very different from what my father was passionate about. So as a result, sort of my art, maybe most recently, I started experimenting with gunpowder to create gunpowder art, including, for example, gunpowder paintings and also outdoors explosion event, which is a transient. And additionally, I also create installation art for related to a variety of subjects and themes. For example, some major works featuring replica wolves, and which is entitled Had Ang, and I also work with boats as a major motive, and then realizing borrowing your enemy's arrow as another major installation on the collection of Museum of Modern Art. Additionally, I also create a variety of social projects. For example, one major exhibition was entitled Peasant Da Vinci that was first realized in Shanghai at a Rockbound Art Museum. For that exhibition, I presented a variety of creations realized by peasants, Chinese peasants that I collected and commissioned over years in order to show. So for me, they are just like peasant Da Vinci's, and I actually coined that term. And my idea for that project/exhibition is to really showcase the creativity of the modern, unique force of creativity in modern Chinese society.
所以这个说到这个农民达芬奇，刚好就可以让那个威尔来，那个 oeuvre 来介绍一下，因为这个是跟 oeuvre 的家人有关系的，而且他也是从小看着我这个展览长大的。
So speaking of the exhibition Peasant Da Vinci in Shanghai, probably I should leave it to Audrey to talk a bit more about it and our more collaborations, because that exhibition was realized related to Audrey's family and then the museum they founded. So probably Audrey, you want to take over?
That is fantastic. And again, we're really in the presence of greatness. I mean, Mr. Chai is such a humble yet talented and world-renowned artist. Something that people don't understand is really the scope and gravity of his work, not only about, again, what Audrey is about to explain, but also, I mean, the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, the fireworks that you saw there were actually delivered by Mr. Chai and his team as well. So we truly are in the presence of greatness. And it really is a pleasure to have Mr. Chai here today as we move forward and understand about his journey in the NFT space. Now, Audrey and TRLabs are probably one of the fastest growing premium segments within the art market. As a collector of art, I've simply been amazed by what Audrey and her team have been able to accomplish in such a short period of time. Really bridging the gap between the most successful traditional to digital, while at the same time really blowing up the digital space with all of their unique and innovative drops and community building. Audrey, it's a true pleasure to have you in the space. I want you to definitely speak about the project that Mr. Chai was talking about just now, as well as tell us a tiny bit about TRLabs. How has the growth been, and your continued growth, especially with Mr. Chai in the segment?
That sounds great. First of all, WhaleShark, I just want to say thank you so much. That was really high praise, and you've been so supportive of us ever since the get-go when we had maybe 10 community members. So I'm always just so appreciative of everything that you do, leading people into the space and really making sure that everyone is getting educated. The exhibition that Tai had mentioned was actually the opening exhibition at Wakban Art Museum in Shanghai, which is an art museum that my family have founded, I believe now, more than a decade ago. And so it's kind of coming around full circle, but now with TRLab as a co-founder and CEO, I get to work with Tai again in a very different way and get to experience the mastery of his medium and his art form in a way that is probably the most exciting thing that has ever happened to me. And in introducing TRLab briefly, we're an NFT platform that's focused on pioneering a new way to conceptualize and collect fine art. The full name of TR, as many of you know here, is Tabula Rasa, a Latin expression meaning blank slate. We are a creative production studio, NFT sell platform, and virtual community for collectors and artists all combined in one. And we aim to work with both digital and traditional artists, foundations, and institutions to serve them end to end in either entering the space or deeply engaging with the space. Back in January, we had actually announced our seed funding round, and I'm happy to share that we're backed by major art collectors, galleries such as Pace Verso, tech investors, and also Web3 innovators such as WhaleShark. And I'm super, super excited to be finally sharing your daytime fireworks with Tai today. We've been working with Tai on this project ever since August, and I couldn't wait to bring it to I've been holding it in me for so long, and I'm just so excited to publicly share it because it also points towards a lot more of the upcoming projects that TRLab aims to do this year that is much grander in scale and really has a lot deeper thought that went into the innovation and as we continue experimenting with the space.
I'm a huge fan of what both of you do. And again, Audrey, just watching your journey along with the entire TRLab TRLab team has been absolutely fascinating. Again, and I think that is really epitomized by the journey that Mr. Chai has had with you, right? And I'm not going to delve into too much of the details because I know that we want to save a little bit of that for later. But really looking at the growth of your platform, represented by Chai's work, having a record-breaking sale with the initial drop, right? And then after that, moving with Transient Eternity, Then after that, moving and seeing Chai give more of himself to the entire space through exploding the self. And then now having a opportunity for collectors to really engage with Mr. Chai through your daytime fireworks. Again, that dynamic between collector and creator, you're really enabling collectors to understand more about the creator and to engage with their artwork. So, I mean, you guys are, if you guys are already Web 3.5, I think that is simply amazing. But we will get into that as we move forward. So guys, just to make sure that we are organizing this in a orderly manner with linguistics, I'm going to talk in Chinese first, and then after that speak in English. So 我先好像因为好像我们就是我们开始去探讨一下，就是好像这个新的项目之前，我们必须得做的东西，就是去看蔡老师好像之前从去年到现在的这样的一个 NFT 业界里面的一个旅程。那么我们现在会过一下，就是蔡老师好像第一个发出的这个作品，还有第一个和第二个然后我们会去讨论一下这个白天火花的这个新的一个项目。So what we're going to do is to understand how we got here to your daytime fireworks. I'd love to take a look at, and ask a couple of questions regarding Mr. Chai's journey throughout the entire space, starting with Transient Eternity, and then after that to Exploding the Self. And we can have a conversation as we get to your daytime fireworks. So DC, if you'd be kind enough to bring up the video of the very first piece. That is amazing and astounding, right? I think that when Mr. Chai dropped into space with Transient Eternity, this was really the very first time that a contemporary artist of this caliber moved into NFTs. And it really simply wasn't a direct translation of his physical static work into the space itself. Now, given that 蔡老师这是你第一次进入 NFT 业界的这个 Transient Eternity 的这个作品，然后这个呢好像应该是已经好几个月了，而且那个时间点呢，而且就是也是一个破纪录的一个旅程。蔡老师从这一次就是发布了你的第一个 NFT 作品到现在，你对于这整体的 NFT 的经验是怎么样？ So basically, when Mr. Chai released this piece a couple of months back in 2021, it was a record-breaking piece with sales above $2 million. And what I wanted to ask Mr. Chai is, having been in the space for, I would say over a year now, is, what has been his observations as well as his feelings about the NFT space? 蔡老师，请。
OK， 当时我开始对 NFT 完全不知道的，但是那个朋友打电话给我说，蔡你很合适 NFT。后来我发现各种各样有兴趣 NFT 人一做 NFT 就想到我，那我理解了他们就是对我作品里面的那个转瞬即逝，那种不能够被留住的一个瞬间给怎么留下来，在 NFT 应该是非常有意义的。而且我一直在思考，或者我总是在告诉人们，我那个不光爆炸的那个作品是艺术，爆炸的瞬间也是艺术。大家也理解了，那个瞬间如果没有做得好，怎么会形成那个结果，那个艺术作品呢？那么在这之前的艺术史上，这个瞬间只能通过照片和视频来看。但是有 NFT， 我们可以把这个瞬间当成一个可以收藏的、可以纪念的，也更重要的是当成瞬间就是作品，可以给它留下来，成为你的收藏。所以我总是一直提醒人们，你不是收藏视频，你是收藏这个瞬间，这个转瞬就消失的这个瞬间。这样你能够感受到艺术里面正在讨论的人生时间空间那些东西成为更真实的存在。这就是99个瞬间的那个作品的一个追求吧，一个主旨。
So firstly, I have to admit that in the very beginning, I had little knowledge about NFT, crypto world. But bit by bit, my friends have been approaching me saying, "Hi, I think you are a good fit for crypto world or NFT." And a lot of people were thinking about me to create an NFT artwork, which made me think, well, maybe there is some possibility there. And probably because but then I was also thinking why they have been saying this thing, and then I realized probably it's because of this nature of transience embedded in lots of my art. The moments, i.e. the moments that are normally hard to keep, the explosion moments, the moments of ignitions that are the transient moments, which are typically hard to keep. But now with through NFT, they could be in a sense eternalized in the space, which may bear some special significance. In fact, for me, for a long time, I always think my art not only includes those gunpowder paintings, the physical forms, but also the transient moments of ignitions. Both of these aspects I consider as my art, because, for example, without those transient moments of ignitions, there wouldn't be the physical resulting gunpowder paintings. Before, and then I started to think, before NFT came into being, normally those transient moments, which is part of my art, can only be presented via, say, photos or videos. But then with NFT, we are able to collect these transient moments as part of my art and keep them as a beautiful memory. So then, which is great, then we get to really showcase these transient moments as my art and make them collectible and possessed by holders. And through this process of and this experience of collecting these transient moments, the collectors will also feel, in the profound sense, the life and then the special time and space embedded in those moments as part of my art, which is also the real aspects of my art. And then eventually I created my first NFT, Transient Eternity, which includes 99 moments of ignitions of my major gunpowder paintings.
OK， 你要再讲得更快更简练。然后那一个第二个 NFT 我也给大家回顾一下，它就是碰到了疫情嘛，我们大家都知道越来越严重，所以我做了一个炸自己的一个自画像。大家应该知道，艺术史上很多艺术家总是画画的时候拿自己出来画自画像，象征着那个时代和他的心理。那我这个自画像就是一张是在下面，一张在上面，炸了以后打开，下面那一张就更写实，上面那张更虚拟。就我感到了这个除了这个口罩，戴着口罩很象征着我们这个时代的自画像。大家都习惯我们现在经常戴口罩，或者这一个疫情期间我们戴口罩的这个人类的形象。那么同时也是能够感受到一边写实的那一边，更是这一个好像仿佛是我们的线下的艺术，那个上面那个虚拟的那一边更像我们的线上的一个艺术一样的存在。因为好像线上的艺术永远都会从我们线下的人生艺术史文化来借它的东西，作为它的一个面一个镜子来反映，或者是借它的一个灵魂的东西。那么这是我的第二个NFT， 叫炸自己。
So then a little bit about my second NFT called Exploding the Self. Around the time the pandemic broke out, and then I created a self-portrait painting around the time. And then in art history, traditional painters did a variety of self-portraits, trying to express their mentality or feelings at the time. So for my self-portrait, I spread gunpowder in between two empty canvases, one on top, one below, and ignited the gunpowder between the canvases, and then unfolded the two panels to have two versions, and then the one on top appears to be more realistic, and then the bottom one is more abstract. And the painting, the self-portrait, also features me with a mask on my face, which I think is sort of symbolic of the time we're in, and then related to the pandemic. And later I also realized, I also felt that the top panel, which is more realistic, is in a sense related to the physical world and we're in on a daily basis, whereas the abstract panel is more corresponding to the virtual world, because in a sense, virtual world has been borrowing something or is always informed by our physical world, and which is sort of, they have sort of a mirroring effect, and which kind of echoes this self-portrait that I created. But the exploiting the self NFT is the moment of ignition of this self-portrait that I did.
所以我很高兴，比如说以后大家到那个乌菲齐美术馆，他们是收藏文艺复兴以来的很多世界艺术家的自画像，他们有这个几百张专门的收藏达芬奇啊、米开朗基罗啊、拉斐尔啊，各种各样时代的伟大的艺术家们的自画像，他们也有收藏我一张自画像。那个自画像是线下的真实的自画像。但我们这个炸自己的自画像，当然我这2张画是线下的，它毕竟还是真实的物质的自画像。但是我们有99个 NFT 的炸我自己的自画像，现在通过 TRLab 已经在很多收藏家的手上。那么这样等于就是我为我们的时代记录了一个自画像，创作了一个自画像。它不仅仅会收藏在未来的哪一个美术馆，它更重要的收藏在99个的收藏家里面，他们拥有这一个在这个虚拟的世界里面的一个自画像。
So I'm also happy to share that, well, you know, the Uffizi galleries in Italy, they have a good collection of hundreds of self-portrait paintings done by great painters throughout the history, including, say, Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and then they also have one of my small little portrait on their collection, which of course is a physical painting. But then I then feel that by doing this exploding the self NFT, not only for the physical painting, only one holder will get to collect it in the future. But now with this exploding the self NFT, 99 collectors will get to experience and enjoy, appreciate this my art, my related to self-portrait, so that. Yeah, so the painting, my self-portrait, will not only be collected by physical museum, but also can be appreciated by 99 collectors in the virtual world, which is a beautiful thing to me.
那么这一次新的这一个项目，就是属于比较又往前进一下，就是更多的跟这个社区有互动。那就是参与的收藏家们，他们不光是要先从 A 到 Z 来了解一下我的人生啊，对我的艺术有些一些理解和学习，还要做一个小测试，要及格了以后，他们才能拿到黄金那个入场券。然后我们会一个阶段一个阶段的那再放出来，等于是他们一步步的跟我一起创作，随着我的足迹。在世界不同的地方，然后创造不同的白天烟火，这样他们也成为艺术家的创作者之一了。他们也是收藏家，也是艺术家。
So then for my new project, My Daytime Fireworks, we're carrying it one step further. It will be more interactive than before. For example, the collectors will first read a small manual called Artist Cai Guo-Qiang A to Z, and then they can we invited them to take a mini quiz about my art and life. Once they pass the quiz, they get to possess a golden ticket, and they have the chance to mint it to have a golden ticket NFT. And then overall, we also have additional phases, upcoming phases. So overall, the collectors will get to follow my footprint step by step. In a sense, they are not only collectors, but also creators along the way, get to enjoy the creative process.
那这一段那个 Audrey 有没有什么要补充的？
So Audrey, you have any probably you have something to add for our new project.
Audrey, please go ahead. Yep.
Oh no, you go ahead.
I think again it's a beautiful answer, right? I mean, whenever I speak with Mr. Chai, the enthusiasm and the passion that he not only has for his work, but how do you translate that work into a digital environment? It's just awe-inspiring, right? I remember the very first time when we spoke with Mr. Chai, you know, when you look at some artists who transfer from the traditional to the digital, you know, very often they just take what they're doing in the traditional world and put it up there in the digital. They don't put that much thought into it. But with Mr. Chai, really looking at, this is my artwork, now let me boil it down to the essence, which is that one single moment of ignition, that transient eternal moment of lighting the fireworks and seeing that piece get created. And then after that, having the understanding and realization that this is truly the way that my work needs to be tokenized on the NFT space, that's just simply amazing. And Sam, the translation has been spot on. I really do appreciate it's going extremely well, and everybody loves this interview. Just a quick update on the audience. I can tell you that the Whale Community Discord is absolutely full. So people are have to go onto YouTube and have to go onto Twitter. At the same time, I can tell you that I can't even count the number of messages that I have on my Twitter as well as other places, saying that Mr. Chai is their favorite artist. 他说有很多人都在说你是他们最喜欢的一个艺术家。So before we move on to talk about your daytime fireworks, I just want to make an observation, and I'm going to do this in Chinese first, and then after I'll do it in English, which will lead me into my question and eventually into our discussion regarding the daytime fireworks. 那么蔡老师，如果我看就是好像你在 NFT 的这个旅程呢，就是第一部分的时候，就是有一个单独的 one of one 为了去下，然后后来好像从那个好像在 TRLab 去拍卖，然后后来我们再看了就是砸自己。这个时间点呢，好像就是有99个，所以呢，好像突然好像是从一个收藏家就变成了99个收藏家，然后这一次呢，好像在白天火化呢，你就突然好像这个呢，好像就是更多的人可以去参与，可以去接触到你的这个艺术，可以说好像简单来说是给每个人一个机会点，为了去接触而且去了解。这个蔡老师的这些艺术，刚才老师我们上台之前，你也说过，我不是一个商业的一个艺术家，对吗？我就是好像喜欢做艺术，才是一个艺术家。那么，我想问你，就是好像我们去讨论这个白天火花的之前，我想问你，因为你肯定就是我刚才好像我们就是上这个节目之前也跟你讨论过，很多世界最大的这些艺术收藏家，每次讨论到蔡老师的时候，只有一大堆的好话，而且好像他们是挺欣赏这蔡老师的这些作品。那么在你的这个 NFT 这个旅程，这些比较传统的这些收藏家有没有给到蔡老师一些反馈，或者一些ideas 这样之类。So translating this into English, you know, when we look at Mr. Chai's journey throughout NFTs, you know, he started with Transient Eternity, which was a one of one, and again, a record-breaking one of one. And then after that, he moved to Exploding the Self, where all of a sudden you had 99 editions, right? And as we move on to your daytime fireworks, essentially what you see now is that the number of people that get to interact with Mr. Chai's art and get to interact with Mr. Chai's, you know, experience is becoming more and more. It's becoming extremely interesting because everyone gets the ability to participate. Now, I've been fortunate enough to be able to rub shoulders with some of the largest collectors of contemporary art in the world, and they only have good things to say about Mr. Chai's art, as well as the way that he approaches art, not as a commercial artist, but as someone who wants to do art for the sake of doing art. And this is a question I'll have for Mr. Chai as well as Audrey, you know, because both of you have 1 foot in the traditional space and 1 foot in the digital space. How has the reaction of traditional collectors been to Mr. Chai's journey? as well as maybe the traditional collectors that are collecting on TRLabs. So we'll talk about this before we jump into the Your Daytime Fireworks discussion. But I would like to ask Mr. Chai first, how has the reaction been of traditional collectors to his very successful entry into the NFT space?
NFT 界非常成功，有什么反应
OK， 我来说，就是我先跟大家分享一个我的体验，就是比方说我跟传统的收藏家交流，他们有时候是会看我在美术馆的展览啊，比如说在故宫啊，在古根海姆啊，在一些重要的美术馆的展览，那他们会很爱我的艺术，那有时候会来，因为我有没有一个画廊代理，然后他们就来我的工作室看我做火药画啊，看我的作品。然后我们就好像成了朋友，他就越来越了解我作品，就收藏了。那么有一些朋友都是收藏我的作品，我们如果对话都是一个对一个，一个对一个。就是他哪天又见到我了，又说啊，蔡，我很爱你的艺术啊，大家又在谈艺术。然后他们当然也会问我 NFT 是怎么回事啊，我现在在做这个 NFT， 我也会很吃力的告诉他 NFT 是怎么回事。那他们也开始在好奇着，在研究，那他是不是要收藏一个 NFT 啊？等等的，当然也是在一个刚开始，很多的传统收藏家都是在刚开始的思考 NFT 是什么意思，跟我一样，我也在摸索。那么如果我们跟那个 NFT 的收藏家们对话，就好像是同时性的对话，而且不是悄悄的在哪里一起坐着吃饭，在聊这些艺术的交流，而是公开的。所以我的小故事就是，像我每天都给 NFT 的我们的这些收藏家啊，这个币圈的这个朋友们发一个枣啊，然后我每天我这个枣是象征着我那一天的白天早晨是在哪一个地方，可能在机场，可能在北京，可能在泉州，可能我妈妈去世，然后我家有个灵堂。也可能是我在我又回到 New Jersey 了，可能我去洛杉矶了，跟哪一个朋友在一起了。他这个枣呢，永远的把我这个具体的线下的人生放在哪里，但是我又通过这个枣跟他们在线上有一个来往。这个来往呢，就是我感到是一个同时性对话。他跟线下的收藏家对话是一个单独对话，而且是一个个别私下的对话。那么跟这个 NFT 的这个收藏家们是一个同时性的线上的对话。对我来说是一个很有趣的，让我跟大家的对话呢有一些很神奇的一个没有边界的其实我有时候也不知道这么多收藏家他们是具体他们在哪里。但是当我比如说有时候给他们寄了这一个过年的闪亮卡，我每年总是把自己的今年的一个作品做成那个会摇动会闪光爆炸的那个卡，然后以前我这些卡都是送给朋友嘛，然后收藏家也是，那今年我也寄给了这些线上的这一些收藏家们，那他们拿到了这个卡，他们会跟他们的猫狗或者是他们会跟他们的一些什么孩子拿着那个闪亮卡在拍视频照片再寄还给我，所以我也就会感受到他们也是一些线下很真实的人生真实的场地，也会猜测那他们可能是在上海，或者他们在香港，也许他们在伦敦，这就是变成是一个线上线下一种来来往往的一个很神奇的空间关系的穿越。
So first of all, maybe I should share a little bit about my experience of interacting with the so-called traditional collectors. So how we interact is normally they first saw my exhibition, say at a Palace Museum in Beijing or the Guggenheim Museum in New York, and then they became interested in my art, and then they reached out and then hoping to visit my studio to see more of my art, because I'm not represented by any gallery. So they have to visit a studio to see my painting. And then would develop a dialogue, would develop conversations, and then they are sure they're really interested in my painting. And then somewhere down the road, they started collecting my work. So in short, dialogue with the so-called traditional collectors are more private and one-on-one. And then see, after I start tapping into the NFT world, these traditional collectors started to ask, so Cai, what is NFT? And I would do my best, and also find it slightly difficult to explain what NFT is. I'm just doing my best to explain. And then they will get curious about NFT. And he also started learning more about this new phenomenon, and also asking me, Cai, do you think I should own one NFT myself? So overall, it's interesting, and I'm happy to see that these traditional collectors started to learn this new phenomenon about crypto world, just like me. We're experimenting with it, we're learning it all at the same time. On the other hand, my dialogues with the crypto collectors, the NFT collectors, I realized that to me, such dialogues often happen all at once and in a more public space. For example, every day I would send GM good mornings to my Discord community. It's more specifically, it's my photo that I take on a daily basis to showcase where I really am physically that morning. Sometimes I'm at the airport, or in my hometown in Quanzhou, or even at home at the memorial ceremony that we hold at my home in Quanzhou when my mom passed away recently. So overall, these good mornings that I sent to the virtual space collectors reflects my physical life. So in a sense, I'm realizing this kind of interesting dialogues between the virtual space and the physical space. So yeah, in short, I feel like my dialogues with virtual collectors are happening all at once and publicly, whereas my dialogue with traditional collectors are more one-on-one and more private. And yeah, so this whole distinct experiences are very interesting to me. I feel like the dialogue with the virtual collectors have no borders. But in fact, sometimes I also wonder, where exactly are these virtual collectors? So then so very interesting thing is that, well, normally at the end of every year, I would send lenticular card to my friends and then collectors around the world. But this year, I sent lenticular card, New Year's cards to a selection of the virtual collectors too. And then they would send back videos of them flipping my lenticular card with their children and family, and then saying thank you to me. So then I realized, wow, they are more than just sort of virtual collectors. They also have a physical life. So then I realized, well, some of them come from Shanghai, some are in London, for example. So it's very interesting, and it's a wondrous experience to see how the virtual world and the so-called physical world are interacting with each other and channeling the experiences on both realms.
One thing that I've always appreciated about Master Chai's responses is that they're so honest, so pure, and so, so truthful. My condolences regarding Master Chai's mother, but it also philosophically got me thinking about how important Master Chai's work is, because again, philosophically speaking, what is life but a bunch of transient moments that are only eternal because they exist in other people's hearts and memories, right? So again, whenever I speak with Master Chai, I get a new understanding, not only of his work, right, but also about how his work pertains, I guess, to the transiency of life, and how, again, our life are just a series of fireworks, and those fireworks are really what make life worth living. But as always, such a pure and humble answer from Master Chai. I'm really honored to be able to understand that. Again, we are going to make sure that we have time to talk about your daytime fireworks. But before then, absolutely want to have Audrey talk about, again, I mean, Audrey, you have one foot in the traditional world, you have one foot in the digital world. and I think you're leaning your body into the digital world now. But again, you come from a background, and you come from an environment where you have a lot of very high-profile traditional art collectors. What has their response been to TRLabs and to the NFTs that have been being dropped?
Oh, absolutely. I think that one thing that has been really interesting to trace over the last couple of months is how much the attitude has shifted. Even when we were just starting out in June, July of last year, people were asking us a lot of, what is NFT? Like, why would I want to do this thing? What's the relationship between that and a physical artwork? And now, Q2 now in 2022, the questions that I get are way more about the mechanics. People are starting to understand with brilliant artists such as Pac that there is more to NFT art. It's not just about converting a JPEG from the physical world into the digital world. It's about really following an artist's medium, capturing the essence of their work, and allowing them to engage with collectors in a whole different way. So I think the accessibility of that and the ease at which you can access artists is something that we're really focused on, and something that traditional collectors appreciate. I was very lucky to have grown up to have been able to visit Cai's studio in New Jersey and New York, but that's not an experience that a lot of people can have simply because of the space constraints. But now in the virtual world, Cai is able to communicate with so many more collectors and fans that love his work in a very organic manner that was basically in Web 2.0. And I love that in our Discord, Exploding the Self Owners group, there's a little hidden channel, as Cai mentioned, where he says good morning every single day. And for those of you who are exploding yourself owners in the chat, you'll notice that there's something that is within those good mornings that will become very apparent in your daytime fireworks.
I like the alpha that you're dropping there, Audrey. Wink, wink, blink, blink, cough, cough.
Yes.
Very, very good. But again, I think we've teased people long enough. Why don't we talk about your daytime fireworks? How it came about. I know that again, it's something. It's a well-guarded secret in the art world. So we will reveal what we can reveal. But I guess I'm going to switch to Chinese, and I'll ask the question in English. And then, so we'll ask both questions to Master Cai as well as Audrey. 所以我第一个问题呢，就是好像这样的一个白天这个 daytime fireworks 的这个项目，它的这个想法是怎么开始的？而且好像它最重要的目的，虽然好像我们不可以好像去说它太多的这个重点吧。就是太多的这个好像最后的这个作品，但是它最终的一个对蔡老师来说，它最终的目的是什么 ？So the first thing I'm going to ask Mr. Cai is how did the idea of your daytime fireworks come about, and what is the true meaning or the true purpose of your daytime fireworks? 蔡老师，请。
怎么诞生的和它的意义？
对，大家知道我做这几年做了很多白天烟火，我们应该在这个TRLab 的网上也有很多。那这一个白天烟火呢，最大的我邀请大家来参与这一个白天烟火，就像我们现在看到电脑上，大家应该看到现在电脑的那个烟花的发射管被盖着，对不对？还有一个那个发射器在旁边，是吧？就是因为烟火没有被打出去，我们永远都在焦虑和不安。出来会什么？会不会出来啊？然后等等，还有会不会受到各种各样的环境影响啊？就有很多担心。这一种担心呢，作为艺术家，不比如说奥运会、冬奥会，就是我总是提醒大家，我们应该相信我们的经验，还有我们的科学技术，我们的测验等等等等，是相信是能够来的。因为大家都不知道，开幕当音乐响起来，当当当当当当，梆梆梆，这些烟火会不会出来啊？是不是会出来啊？出来效果是什么？都是会有很多不安。这个不安呢，就构成了我们参与的过程中的神奇感和它的冒险。和他的那一个紧张，所以我也是想通过这一个项目带给我们的收藏家跟艺术家一样的有更多的这一个介入，这一个惊喜，还有这一种紧张和参与感。等于是以前我做的这个99个瞬间，那都是做完的， 只是把这个瞬间给它作为 NFT 收藏下来。那么这一次不一样了，大家在这个过程中结果他们收藏了一些，就像现在我们看的这些烟花还没有被放出来的，他们就会有很多的惊喜和紧张，就是他们能体验艺术家创作的更多的那一个过程和那一个喜悦和不安。
So, well, maybe lots of people already know that I have been creating a variety of daytime fireworks the past years, and probably some are, you already saw some of these examples on TRLab's website as well. So this time, which prompted me to create this project, in which I would love to invite people to participate in a more interactive and interactive way of setting off their own daytime fireworks. Just looking at the screen, we can see a box filled with fireworks tubes, and which are then connected by a electric fuse with a control panel, ignition panel. So normally, before the explosion moment, there would be accumulated anxieties or uncertainty, being whether this fireworks will really be set off, will its effects be affected by weathers or any other uncertain factors, external factors. For example, in my experience, when I was working for the opening fireworks for the Winter Olympics or Summer Olympics in Beijing, I have to assure my team again and again that we have to trust in the tests. We have done so many tests, and then the fireworks are gonna work. Definitely, we have to have faith. But then I understand people naturally will have anxieties all the way up till the ignition moment. Because it's normal to have such kind of anxieties about the uncertain thing that will happen, the unexpectedness. But rightly because of such kind of anxieties, we can find something wondrous, something adventurous or risky, but in an interesting and surprisingly interesting way. So with all this in mind, I would love to invite collectors this time to experience the kind of interesting anxieties and uncertainty that I have been experiencing around the world as I have been setting off my own fireworks. So in another word, for my past two NFT artworks, they're already what the collectors owned are already completed moments of ignitions. But this time, I want to invite people to collect and set off their own fireworks to experience the interesting surprise that I have been experienced as I'm creating works. And so in a sense, they can experience the artistic creation process themselves.
所以这一个总结一下，就是这一个 NFT 更强调他们的参与感，参加进来了，他们也是收藏家，也是有艺术家的体验和生活和感受，他们有惊喜，有不安，有紧张，然后他们能够追随艺术家的足迹，还有世界的变化，更是现场式的，是一个过程的。
So in short, my daytime fireworks hope to emphasize on the sense of the deep interaction and participation and engagement. So the collectors are also, in a sense, an artist themselves to experience the kind of surprises or uncertainties or oscillations or fears about the upcoming artwork. In a sense, they will be following the steps of an artist and also experience onsite the uncertain external conditions exerted by the world we inhabit.
I absolutely love that answer. And again, as you look at it, you know, the collector all of a sudden is becoming the creator. And I have not seen this sort of integration. This is genius, right? This is really genius because again, when we look at this, eventually the collector becomes the creator. You know, we can always look at an art piece and assume, you know, or think about, you know, what is this artist or what is this creative feeling when they're in the process of creation. But what Master Cai has been able to do is, you know, through a 3-step process, allow any single collector to become Master Chai for that limited amount of time, and to be able to experience all of the anxiety, all of the sense of accomplishment, as well as all of that sense of creation that Master Chai feels when he does it himself. That's absolutely brilliant.
If there's
Go ahead, Audrey.
If there's one thing I want to add here is that when we were first starting to talk to Cai about this third project, there were, I think, two main things that we're inspired by, and it was one, attempting to capture the essence of Cai's artworks, like really thinking deeply about the process that his mind and his body goes through as he's setting off a firework. And then the second part is thinking about how to involve community. I think Cai has been reflecting a lot on not just the technological implications of NFTs, but also how it's enabled him to feel a lot closer with a community of virtual members with Exploding the Self. And so because of that, when we were thinking about this project, and I think Cai definitely is hinting a lot at what's going to happen, but our tech team needed to do a smart contract innovation that, to our knowledge, we've never seen anyone else do for the art that is inspiring the technology. And I think that is I'm so excited for chapter 2 and chapter 3 to come, because they're definitely my favorite parts of the project.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Let's stop winking and blinking and coughing, Audrey. Let's talk a little bit about that. So the entire step, so this project, again, it's an experience. It's not only an experience. It's not only a piece of eventual artwork, but it's really putting the collector in the creator's shoes. And my understanding is that your daytime fireworks is essentially a composition of 3 different chapters, right? You have the golden ticket stage, you have the firework packet minting stage, which we'll talk about a little bit. And then after that, you have almost the grand finale of this project, which is, aptly named Your Daytime Fireworks. So Audrey, I would say that this is a question for you. But again, when we looked at the golden tickets, it was really exciting. I mean, you had 4,600, right? Golden tickets minted in 12 hours. Why did we have a quiz about Cai's life? And, really, what are these golden tickets going to mean in the future?
So when we're thinking about the first phase of the project, obviously from the art side, TRLab really cares about integrated education and making sure that collectors are learning about the artist's art. That not to say that we're against flippers per se, but we definitely want to make sure that collectors that care about the artwork, that find out about the project organically early on, have a better chance to mint the ultimate artwork. So that's how the idea of Golden Ticket came about. The TRLab team put together 20 different questions, and you would have to answer 5 questions, and if you got more than 3 questions correct, then you would be able to mint the Golden Ticket. Aside from guaranteeing that, this part of the process wouldn't be easily botted, because the process then becomes a lot more complicated, it was really us trying to make sure that everyone is from the very get-go of the project, focused on Cai as an artist and his beautiful artworks, and learning more about him as a creator. And so we put together this A to Z Medium article talking about Cai's artworks and projects, where we also hinted at part of what is to come later. And the quiz also includes hint of different projects and Easter eggs that are included in the project that is coming on later. So the idea is that if you come into the project earlier on, if you learn about Cai and you put the time in to do the quiz and achieve the results of the quiz, then you have a much better chance to become involved with the project and grow with Cai and become an artist alongside Cai later on.
That's fantastic. And I actually do have a question for Master Cai as well. Before we move on to maybe more of the concrete details that naturally we want to share with everybody, I'm going to ask this in Chinese and I'll translate to English. 所以蔡老师好像这一次就是好像我们已经结束了，或者在进行就是这个 daytime fireworks 的第一部分，就是这个 golden ticket， 然后在12个小时之内，很多 golden tickets 已经被收藏了，对吗？那么我想问一下蔡老师，就是 对于好像这样大的一个这么多人好像都在收藏这些金票，而且好像在整体的在创造这个项目跟 TRLab 合作，还有 Broken Labs 合作的经验，可以提供一些感想或者一些反馈吗？So what I'm asking Mr. Chai is, so they immediately upon releasing 4,600 golden tickets were redeemed by collectors already, and this is 4,600 people who actually learned more about who is Cai Guo-Qiang and what is he about, right? So within 12 hours, you had 4,600 tickets being redeemed. I just wanted to get Mr. Chai's thoughts in terms of, what is his reaction to that, as well as what has been, I guess, his reaction as well as experience in working with both TRLabs as well as Broken Thread in bringing this project to fruition. 蔡老师，请。
是，那我感受到就是通过我们现在这一次越来越多的人参与，因为我们以前这个是一个有99个瞬间，后来炸自己就99个，这一次呢将更多，这样就是把我们的目标是什么有一次的体现出来。当我们更线下艺术的时候，我们做一件作品只能给一个美术馆或者是一个收藏家收藏，但我们如果在线上的时候，我们可以让更多人的来参与，而尤其我刚才说的，我们是通过这一个收藏一个艺术家创作的一个经验，他的情感。那我们这一次机会也是有这个机会，通过很多人收藏，跟艺术家一起思考，也是跟我一起思考对 NFT 的意义在哪里，什么是 NFT， 还有什么可能，它如何跟线上线下能够更连在一起，然后跟我们的人生啊，我们的大自然的天气啊，我们所在的城市啊，跟蔡的艺术家的足迹啊更有关系。所以我感到第一个黄金入场券考试的那一些测试是一个作品的重要一部分，它会延续到未来我们在推出来的作品的时候，因为有过那些测试，所以他们能够更多的喜悦和更多的理解，这就是我们一起成长一起摸索的一个过程。
So my feelings about the collaboration with TRNBT and the phase 1 of the project is that I realized for my first NFT job it was just one-on-one, and then the second job has had 99 editions and hence that number of collectors. But this time we're embracing a much greater audience and participants this time, and by doing so, we're showing more and more clearly our goals to the public and to ourselves as well, which is beforehand when we are dealing with the physical world and the traditional collectors. Usually a work is collected by one collector and one museum, whereas now we are engaging much more people in an exciting way. As I just mentioned, this time for my daytime fireworks, the collectors are actually collecting an experience, collecting the feelings of an artist, of being an artist and creator. So throughout this whole journey, this process, the collectors and participants are thinking together with me, to think, what is NFT exactly and what its special significance in the art world? And then is there any interesting possibilities, for example, by channeling in a meaningful way the physical world and the virtual world? And also think in relation to our life, and then how the weather conditions are affecting us, or the cities where we are affecting us, where the artworks, and what is and how my artistic footsteps may factor into the experience. So overall, I do think that the phase 1 about the golden ticket and also the quiz experience are indeed a critical, integral part of the artwork, this whole art project. So those who experienced this phase 1 will be even happier or more excited to participate in the following phases with a better understanding and knowledge of both my fireworks and my art and life.
所以我感谢那个大家这么热烈的那一个反响，也感谢 TRLab 和 BT 的这个制作，说明他们把我的观念传递到大家的那个理解上面去，等于我也深深的体会到，我线下的艺术方法论之一很重要的就是因地制宜啊。那这个因地制宜从线下也到了线上来了。跟不同的文化、不同的人，在不同的时空里面共同创作因地制宜的这一种方法论。
So I want to warming response to phase 1 of the project in different communities, and also want to thank TR and BT Broken Thread for managing to get across the essence of my art to the public, to the communities. And also, I've also been thinking that, in fact, one of my artistic methodologies has been creating site-specific works together with local communities. So by doing My Daytime Fireworks, we are carrying forward that methodology. And by engaging more the virtual community as well. As a whole, where we are channeling the virtual and the physical communities, by engaging people from different cultural backgrounds and different geographical locations, both virtual and physical, and people from different time and space to embark on this shared interactive experience.
Yeah.
Site specific.
Okay.
Wonderful. Sang, by the way, that's a wonderful answer. And Sang, by the way, your fan club is growing. I think the number of people complimenting the translation on this is insane. So I think there's 2 more things that I really do want to talk about and show for your daytime fireworks, right? Before we move on to maybe 2 or 3 questions from the audience. Again, I want to say this again. Whenever we get together with Master Cai and Audrey, I think, again, we could sit down here for 5 hours and we could chat about the art and we could chat about everything. I think that just shows the commonality and bond that the 3 of us have. But again, I am aware of everyone's time. Mr. Cai has graciously agreed to stick with us for another 15 more minutes as we go into the end season of this interview. But Audrey, so again, we've looked at this entire journey, right? And again, we're still at the first step. What are some of the things that people are going to need to look out for in the coming days to make sure that they don't miss out in becoming Master Cai as we go through your daytime fireworks?
So we do have a surprising announcement coming tomorrow that we've announced in our Discord. I would say everyone should definitely stay updated on TRLab's Discord and our Medium and Twitter. That's where we'll be posting all updates in real time. But we have an announcement coming tomorrow. And similarly, Cai is actually having a private AMA with Exploding the Self-Owners tomorrow, where he will be sharing more about the project and answering their questions in detail. Another thing to look forward to is the 14th, which is when Chapter 2 is going to happen, which is what this countdown is going for. But please stay tuned because we'll be releasing a lot of the questions that everyone has been asking us in the chat, including the mint details, the mechanism behind the mint, etc., much closer to date.
That is perfect, my friend. So you guys make sure that you stay tuned to those deadlines. But Audrey, I think, rather than being a tease, as we all usually are with major projects, I think we have something very special to show the audience today as well, right? Audrey, would you like to introduce this before DC puts on the video?
Yes, absolutely. And so we will be doing our first ever full artwork sneak peek today, and I have been so excited for this. One thing I want to add is that, and Cai hasn't shared as much of this, but it's insane the amount of detail that went into conceptualizing every single detail in the piece. From the single button that you see going off firework, we probably spent, I want to say, more than 20 different iterations just really thinking about the button in real life and how we wanted to transition it into the digital world. So we'll be showing one of the artworks that for this project in its entirety. And I would ask everyone to please turn up your audio because the sound is also extremely important.
DC, let's hit it, my friend.
很重要，让大家
And I think absolutely beautiful virtual fireworks, and I can't wait to see what this looks like when it launches. It gets me all excited. So I think again we're going to make sure that we revisit, and I'll let Audrey make sure that she reveals again the appropriate information that everyone does need to be looking for at the end of the stream. However, again, this really was a project showcase, and part of the project showcase is our ability to allow our audience to ask questions. It's very seldom that we have a guest of this prestige and fame on the podcast, and I'm just so excited to be able to allow people to be asking questions. 那么蔡老师如果不介意的话，我会选择大概2到3个问题，就是从观众。你的粉丝实在是太多了，所以好像可能进来了，好像有20多个问题，但是我们先选大概2到3个，然后好像为了更加理解蔡老师的这样的一个创造的这个经验。那么第一个呢，我们先从简单一点开始吧。我们先从简单一点开始，然后我会用中文，然后翻译到英文。所以第一个问题就是我们刚开始的时候。有一些中国的社区的这些粉丝问了，中国的朋友可以有机会与蔡老师在 Discord 以外的地方互动吗？So again, translating that into English, would there be any chance for Chinese fans to interact with Mr. Chai off Discord? 蔡老师请。
对，就是中国。NFT 现在是个怎么样的情况？我不是很了解，但是我现在在做抖音，大家就跟我在抖音里面互动很多。比如说，我为春节抖音做了一个牡丹花开、牡丹路况的一个道具，就有8000万人，然后参与了我那个互动。从春节到现在，我在抖音有3.5亿以上的这个播放量。那当然是8000万是最多的那个一个节目被大家来播放关照，所以我感到我希望他那个 TRLab 能够想办法，让中国的那个收藏家还有我们的朋友们能更快的参与到我们的 NFT 的工作这一个共同创造里面来，但现在。基本上我们在中国的比较好玩的平台就是我们正在抖音的那个账号这些大家可以多关注，然后也多在上面多互动。
So thank you for the question. I'm not entirely sure about the status of NFT world in China, but I can say for me, we do have a Douyin account for our Chinese audience in mainland China, and I've been quite active on my Douyin accounts, to be honest. For example, for the past Chinese New Year, I created a special gadget on Douyin, highly interactive gadget on Douyin, which attracted 80 million users and views just for that gadget, to use that gadget. And since then, or so far, my Douyin account has attracted 350 million views. So yeah, we've accomplished something on my Douyin account. Million.
3.5.
对啊，350，对3，对，没错。So, but in order to further engage our audience in China and NFT users in China, maybe TR should work more to think of way to further engage them down the road. But for now, yeah, indeed, I have this Douyin account, and I invite everyone to follow my Douyin accounts and to interact with me there. And we've been, I'm quite active there, and we'll be posting interesting thing about my art and life and projects there on that platform.
So I'm going to respond in Chinese first, and I'll translate what I'm about to say. 蔡老师，我可以说中国的 NFT 市场只有一个字可以去描述， 那就是火，很火现在，
真的
而且蔡老师如果有火，就必须得有烟花。所以我觉得好像这一次有这么多的中国的这个观众在看，也是今天我们会提问的，都是从中国社区的这些蔡老师的这些粉丝吧。So I said to Mr. Chai's question in terms of how is the NFT market doing in China, the only word that I have is lit, absolutely lit. And where there is fire, there has to be fireworks. And I'm absolutely thrilled that we have so many audience members from China today. So that's really where the questions we're going to ask. And I'll take another 2 questions before Audrey and I can wrap up this interview. But one of the other questions that I found that was really interesting is this. And 蔡老师，我先用中文，然后我就把它翻译到英文哈。蔡老师一直提到真实这个词，比如真实就是你的勇敢和力量，要做作品要真实。想问一下蔡老师对真实的定义是什么？ All right, so basically translating into English, and this is more of a philosophical question, right? So Master Chai always uses the word truth, right? For example, maybe your truth is being brave and being powerful, but basically when you create a masterpiece, it has to be truth. So the audience member is asking Mr. Chai, what is his thoughts on what is truth? 蔡老师，请不好意思，比较难一点的问题，但是
不会。是一个说一句话比较难一点的，但并不是一个难，因为做一个艺术家，他生活在一个变化很多的时代，然后这个变化有2、3种，一个是世界的变化战争全球化的倒退经济的高高低低作为不同文化在不同文化的生存各种各样事情，它有很多体验，跟着这个时代在感受的。然后另外一个变化是人生，虽然人家说我是全世界最会玩火的人，你说在中国会很火，这个很好但是应该说我是会玩火的男孩子。那这个男孩子也是人生会长大的，虽然艺术也许一直很浪漫，一直好奇星空宇宙，一直是一个孩子的那一个浪漫，但是他会长大奶奶爸爸妈妈会去世会生老病死，然后清明节会想着他们，对吧？然后孩子也会长大，太太也会变老，是吧？然后孩子从高中开始去读大学，也要读美术了。那是第2个女儿，第1个女儿已经读完大学很久，也在工作创业了，都是做艺术。所以这个人生的很多丰富的变化，你能不能真实的去面对它，然后又找到你的艺术语言，把它给表现出来。其实艺术家能做的事情很少，人家睡醒了去看病当医生，人家睡醒了到那个学校当老师很多工作。这个艺术家睡醒了做什么呢？他睡醒了就是真实的去表现我们一个生命的变化，还有真实的去寻找在我们今天的这个社会随着我们这一个时代的变化，还有艺术的变化，我们能用什么手段来传达，这个手段是很合适的，传达我们今天真实的社会和人生的感受。这就是我比较抽象也比较啰嗦的回答你为什么真实很重要，因为真实才能够跟人共情。大家因为都在忙活着他们自己的日常的工作，但是当有艺术家总是在面对着真实的一些事情比如说像我做了个天梯虽然很spectacular， 就是很稍纵即逝，500米高一个梯子通向天空但大家感动的大量人不是说这个梯子有500米高怎么拿上去太厉害了，不是，是这个天梯传达的 那一种从自己的故乡啊、自己的村庄啊，想对话宇宙、摘星摸耶的那一种少年的情感。对话的是、共情的是那一个他献给他100岁的奶奶，在他人生的走之前，要做一个厉害的、了不起的作品送给他，作为一个温暖这一种共情啊，人很感动。这些是一些真实的东西。这个时代会很多变化，艺术也会很多变化，包括 NFT 啊，未来的什么 T 啊，VR AR 各种各样都会产生，元宇宙各种各样都要来面对。但是人类能不能在各种各样变化中，有一些是不变的，就是情感啊、真实啊、温暖啊，这些东西人类永远都在寻找。所以做一个艺术家，他就不能丢掉这一些，有一些是变化，有一些是不变的。很啰嗦，我想努力。
So, it is not a difficult question, although it's indeed hard to capture or to respond in just one sentence. So my response may be a bit verbose. So I feel overall, I feel artists exists in a changing world, and the changes can be twofold. One is the changing global situation, global affairs, in terms of the changing economy, political situations, or and also the resulting experiences of living in different cultures. And then in response to all these changes, of course, we have different distinct feelings. And then secondly, life is always changing. Although people often say that I'm most renowned in working with fire or fireworks or gunpowder as my artistic medium. I really appreciate these kind of comments. But then for me, I feel I'm always just a little boy who plays with gunpowder or fire. But I have to admit, in art, I'm always a little boy who's romantic, who has an innocent and curiosity. But physically, I do sort of grow up, and years have been growing on me as and I'm of course growing older physically, which means we're dealing with hard facts, realities in life, where my family members passed away, and I'll have mixed feelings on the special occasions like Qingmingjie, the Tomb Sweeping Day. And also my children are growing up, and then the younger one just graduated from high school and then got accepted to a good college. My elder one already graduated and to become an entrepreneur herself. Both of my daughters are sort of an artist themselves, which I'm very happy and proud about. And my wife is of course also growing older as well. So indeed, there are so many changes in life. But the thing is, as an artist, how do you face these changes, and how do you express these feelings and feelings toward the changes in a meaningful way in your art? So in fact, there's little that an artist can do compared to, say, a teacher or a doctor or a banker, those kind of typical professions. So what an artist can do after they wake up every day, what they can do maybe just to find a way to express, a truthful way to express their feelings toward all these mentioned changes in their life, in their world. The important thing is to find a proper way, a truthful way to present these feelings properly. I'm sorry, my response may be a bit abstract or a bit verbose, but then this is really what I think about this matter as being truthful, the truthfulness. I think part of its significance is that it can truthfulness can resonate with people, or realize a kind of sympathy, because people are normally leading busy life, but then artists maybe can help in their way by creating artworks like, say, the explosion event Sky Ladder, which is a 500-meter tall ladder of fireworks soaring up into the sky, connecting the earth and heaven. It's a spectacular explosion event. It's a transient thing, but what I realized is that most people have overwhelming response toward it, but most of it's less about the sort of technical the technical accomplishments underneath the project. Rather, most of the people are impressed by how the artist managed to convey his childhood dream of picking the stars and catching the stars and picking the clouds, and then his childhood dream, or forever eternal dream of talking to the universe, and also how the artist wanted to dedicate this project to his grandma, his very dear grandma, who never got to 100-year-old at the time, who never got to see any of his works outside his hometown. But this time, he just wanted to do this this project just for his grandmother, to show his love. So indeed, the so-called choosefulness is touching, is sympathizing with people. So I guess in a few more words would be, indeed, time is changing, art and NFT and the world is changing all the time, and we are always embracing new things like the metaverse, where who knows in the future what we will have. The new technology is always acceleratingly, it's always developing. But is there anything on this planet or among mankind that are unchanged? For me, the answer may be probably our feelings, the chooseful feelings, or the choosefulness itself. And I guess these aspects are what art cannot give up on and have to continue expressing in a chooseful way.
Mr. Chai, Sang, thank you so much for that. I mean, that and response, as well as the translation, I think that probably has to go in history in the record books as the best response and the best translation I've ever heard to that question. I'm just going to respond in Chinese before translating my response.蔡老师，我们每次坐下来的时候，我不只是好像从一个艺术有一个学习的经验，反而好像也是有一个人生的一个学习的经验。而且我觉得蔡老师好像每次就是好像我可以提出来3个点吧，好像就是从真实来说，要么还是在访谈中，然后让蔡老师来去回答问题的时候，蔡老师每次是真实，在创造这些作品的时候，也是创造真实的作品。而且刚才听说过，听了好像就蔡老师怎么去跟收藏家以及朋友来交流的时候，也是抱着那个真实的心来去跟他们去交流。所以我真的对蔡老师的不只是好像对于你的职业，也是对你的人生是有充满着这样的一个尊重。所以真的非常感谢刚才的一个非常深度的一个回答。So, whenever I sit down with Master Chai, it's always a lesson, not only in art, but also in life, right? I think everyone could see from that response the truth in that response. And whether we're interacting and asking questions on an interview, his answers are always truthful. Whenever he creates, his creations are truthful as well. And, when he spoke about his relationships and the way that he interacts, not only with his collectors and friends, that's full of truth as well. So again, not only a fan of, the way that Master Chai goes about professionally as an artist, but also seeing that truthfulness, permeate into all aspects of his life. That's really something that we should all inspire to do. So I know that, again, we originally planned this interview for 60 minutes. Whenever Master Chai, Audrey, and I get on a call, and Audrey's laughing already, again, we can go on for hours. But again, very cognizant of everybody's time here. Before I wrap up with some closing comments, Audrey, I'd love to have you drop in and maybe just remind everybody about some of the timelines for the daytime fireworks drop, as well as some of the things that they should be looking out for.
Yes, absolutely. So the 2 dates to keep in mind right now is tomorrow we'll have an announcement coming out, and part of the announcement is actually a special surprise for the WhaleShark community too, to just thank WhaleShark and every one of you here that have been so supportive of us from the very get-go. And then the next date to keep in mind is on the 14th at 10 a.m. That's when the minting will begin for Chapter 2, as stated on our countdown website. We will be releasing mint details closer to date. Yes, I think that's all I can reveal for now.
Wink, wink, blink, blink, cough, cough, Audrey.
Yeah.
So I want to say, again, while we planned to have this interview for 1 hour, it went on for 1.5 hours. However, at the same time, to Master Chai's credit, to TRLab's credit, the Whale Discord has been absolutely full all throughout the entire stream. So the first thing I'd like to do is, again, thank Master Chai and Audrey for coming out and spending the time not only to teach us and tell us about the art and what is dropping, but also have this very in-depth conversation about life itself. At the same time, I'd like to thank the audience for sticking through us as we hit the 1.5 hour mark. It really is an honor for me to be able to sit down with Master Chai as well as Audrey and, speak about, some of these progresses that are being made, on the TRLabs platform and with Mr. Chai's journey through the NFT space. I am 100% sure that this is not going to be the last time that we do this, and I hope that we get to do it much more often. And at the same time, guys, when you're looking at this project, the one closing comment that I would have is, Master Chai's approach to NFTs is really something that many of us should aspire to do. With his very first drop in Transient Eternity, he showed the world, or he showed the NFT world, that this is me. When he did Exploding the Self, 99 of you have a piece of Mr. Chai or Master Chai sitting in your wallets today. So this is me giving myself to you. And in this next chapter, in his work with Your Daytime Fireworks, he wants to allow you to become him, right? So I think the humility and the generosity of what Mr. Chai is achieving here through his journey is he's giving himself as a creator, as an artist, to all of you who appreciate the art, who appreciate that life is really just a series of fireworks, right? Really just a series of transient eternal moments that all of us should be appreciating. Master Chai, Audrey, thank you so much for joining us today. You have been the highlight of my day. Always love speaking with you guys, and I look forward to your continued success within the space. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us. DC, why don't you take us out?
谢谢 ，Thank you，每一次都问得非常好，让人感动。
哪里真的非常感谢蔡老师 ，Thank you very much, Audrey. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
谢谢大家，谢谢梦梦和Jeff，还有。